Alright, we're going to take a look here, kind of my recap on how this green-white post deck worked out. A little nervous about going into this. I guess I didn't feel so bad because of the fact that green post is kind of a thing. It's definitely a successful rogue deck. It's not anything like homebrew or anything at this point in time. It has seen some of it's based off of, things like the Crushers here and the Herd, and I kept kind of pretty solid to those pieces of the deck. When I kind of worked in things like the Fetters and the Oblivion Ring and the Hobble. Hobble worked basically how I wanted it to. Gave me a little bit of an extra card draw. Things like the Prism is there just to not only siphon land and turn it into different colors, but it also basically is going to draw cards. So that one card draw, you think, oh, it's one card, it's not that big a deal. But when I bring in those Hobbles for the same reason, it really works out in my favor. Didn't actually end up playing in my tests a lot of aggro-based decks. I did actually play the Hexproof, which was aggro-based, of course, but I can't use any of these things. The Oblivion Ring is definitely a decent choice. I think it kind of makes a nice solution to some of the problems that I think, personally, Green Post has, being unable to deal with certain objects like Bone Splitters and stuff like that, at the very most. Also gives you kind of an edge in, I would say, a mirror matchup. Any kind of other crushers, that's pretty hard to deal with, but if you can remove those, that's great. There is, I guess, something to be said for kind of taking this even further and sticking to the green post version of the deck, removing things like the Faith's Fetters, bringing in a fourth copy of Oblivion Ring, and kind of keeping more to the green again. I know it's kind of weird, it's so few cards in the whole deck that it's hard to draw them at times, but at the same time, when you do draw them, they're very, very helpful. If you look at like Is It Post and how that splashes black for just stupid things like the flashback on Teachings, it's not very far-fetched to believe that you can splash white into a mono green deck in order to balance out some of the other issues. It's not hard to do at all. I guess I would swap out the Fetters, and you get a lot of life gain, obviously, off the Glimmer Posts. And maybe in hindsight, I would bring in at least one copy of the I'm not even going to pronounce it. The Ravnica green-white land that bounces. You guys know the Pauper duels, I often call them, just so we can get a little extra life gain off the Glimmer Post. The Faith Fetters was in there for extra control, but I think, with how few copies there are, you really don't draw into them enough, and the life gain isn't that important. It's even more one of those tiny little things where if you manage to draw it, it's great. If you don't ever see it, you don't even notice it. So, you could definitely stick more to a basic green post strategy and bring those two out for something else, like, an increased, a third copy of Crop Rotation or another Fierce Empath, something like that. I think, it also gives you some options. You can bring in some stuff in the sideboard as far as white is concerned. If you look at something like Fissure Storm, right? And I know that's a 3-color deck, but if you look at Fissure Storm, it is basically an Esper color deck, blue, white, and black. Now, a lot of the deck is blue. Blue is definitely the main color in that deck, but the number 2 color there is going to be white. And if you ever actually look at a Fissure Storm list, the only black thing that is used in the main deck is 4 copies of Nightscape Familiar. A lot of the black cards in that deck come from the sideboard, and the sideboard is actually a majority of black, even though you don't have anything really main deck that is black. So I think, in a similar way, the white mana to the green post, I think you could add a lot of options into the sideboard as far as, removal and control and things that would help balance out some of the bad matchups that green post does have because of the fact that it is a very aggro-based strategy. I really don't know what else to say about this. I mean, it was pretty standard to a green post deck, and anyone familiar with that knows how that goes. We did kind of take it and rework it from green post, so it's definitely it worked out kind of the way I expected it to. Like I said, if I were going to take this any further in testing and stuff, I would probably remove the 2 copies of Faith's Fetters and try and either stick closer to the green post section of things, up the Oblivion Ring to a 4th, something like that. You get some extra options available to you if you take those out, and you really wouldn't miss them. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I know it's kind of been a little while since we had building posts up, but with the downtime of being unable to write for Pure and trying to get that all worked out, hopefully I can get maybe a little more video content to you guys, and at least a little bit more frequent. So enjoy it.